Hi everyone, welcome back to Studio on 7, and today we're looking at perspective, creating depth in a painting. And there you see two little watercolor pics that I did. The left hand side one is very flat. In other words, it looks like everything is sitting on top of one another. And in the right hand side, using different values in the different colors, we've been able to create depth in the picture. So what I'm going to do now on the right hand side is I'm going to do another picture in watercolor and explain the process as we go along in order to form depth in a painting. This can apply to any medium. We're going to use the same things. These are the basics of painting. So the color values are basically all the same, all dark, no variation at all in the left hand side pick, and in the right hand side pick I've used color variation and value in each color, going from light and dark on the mountains, adding light and dark, and then in the landscape itself, going from light in the horizon to warmer colors in the front, just so that you can see the scale of that picture. That is a 2B pencil that we use for drawing, and so you can see the scale of those two pieces that I did there. That is an A4 canvas that is taped to the thing, to the board that I paint on. I did another perspective video in acrylic, and so that will be up on the YouTube channel if I haven't posted it already. I tend to forget what I post. Busy schedule, running around doing this, doing that, doing the home things, washing, cleaning house, etc., when it's my turn to do so. Okay, so now what we're going to do, using watercolor, I'm using my small brushes that I use for gouache, that I do use in my A5 sketchbook. I was going to start painting, and then I thought, no, hang on a minute, let's get that pencil out and do a sketch first, so that we have something to work along. So I drew in as if that was my page, and then I started putting in some mountains, outline of mountains, and that's a road, or could have been a river. Now this is very important here when doing the sketch. In the distance it's going to look smaller than it will be up close. Remember that the road size hasn't changed, it's because of distance. And if you don't put that into your piece of work, it's going to be out. Okay, so drawing in tree. This is based on a Learn to Paint Academy project that I teach. Just adding a few things here and there, bit of artistic license. I'm going to put in another tree on this side. Also bear in mind here with your sketching that things are done in proportion. So the closer they are to you, the larger they're going to be. just a quick outline sketch. Put in the shadow under the trees, reference to the points on the picture, and if you look very carefully you can see a triangular form in that between the two trees and the vanishing point of the road. Now that is one type of composition. Composition type that you can use is using a triangle. Also, the road itself is also in one of the compositional structures, basically either an S shape or a C, long C shape. Okay, so we're going to start picking up some paint now and start laying down the colors. Working in watercolor, you work from light to dark, and completely different process in acrylics, oils and gouache. Principles still stay the same. In other words, fundamentals of art stay the same. What I'm doing now is I'm doing a value scale with green, just so that you can see the value that I'm going to be using, or how to use a value in a painting. Now I made a bit of a blips in the middle here because I got my next value too close to the previous darker one. The mid-tone is left of my finger. That one was too dark. I tried to take it off, but I couldn't, so I just put a cross through it with my pencil. Okay, so we're going from dark on the left to the light on the right. Now, the green I was using is not something I mixed. It was directly from a tube, just so that I can save time in order to make the video. Okay, I crossed out that one in the center because my dark value, as I'm going to write number 1 there and dark above it, dark value number 3 would be the mid-tone, and then I've got the 2 tones on the right hand side which are the lighter tones, and that is done using water. If you were using white, then white would be your lightest and the green on the left would be your darkest. So now in watercolor we work from right to left and not left to right as we would do with acrylics, from dark with the highlights going on top. Watercolor, we do it the other way around. So my lightest green would go on first, and then I'd layer the darker point on top, darker colors on top. Added to that, well, this is not watercolor paper that I'm working on. I'm working on actually a photo scrapbook. So this paper is actually not intended for any paint at all. Sketching would be fine, but it's actually not intended for this. So please ensure you get the right kind of paper. I recommend at least 280 GSM for watercolor work. Really nice to work on. I use my current paper is something that was made in Japan, and I think they manufacture it here now in Taiwan. Right, so what I'm doing is I'm putting in the what would be the darkest green first in the front. In other words, the warmest green, and that would be the dark. Putting in the trees and using the edge of the brush so that I don't get a lollipop effect of a tree. If you remember drawing trees when you maybe playing around when you were a kid, or just doodling on a piece of paper, you used to draw a tree with a circle on top and a stick underneath it, like a lollipop. Well, that's not how it works in nature. So those two trees would be my darkest value in terms of the whole picture, or the warmest. The closer it is to you, the warmer the color is. So this green that I'm using is actually a pre-mixed green that's in the tube. I'm now putting in the distant bush line against the mountain, going into the road. I'm just explaining or showing with my hands. Getting the difference in color already makes the tree closest to us stand out against the other one. If you do have any questions, please feel free to leave a question in the comments below, or you can message me. Hopefully I can assist you, or find out the answer for you if I'm not quite sure or don't know. Right, what I should be doing next would be the mountains, because they're going to be the next darkest on or in the picture. Both sloping and vertical, so those are usually your darkest areas, your verticals. Well, this is on a slope. Obviously it gets light, not as much as the ground does, so your color will be darker than that of the actual field that will be drawn in. And remember, mountains are off in a distance, so they take a purple or blue shade when they're far off. If there's foliage on it, the foliage is going to be very muted, so the green that would go onto a mountain would be extremely muted. With the three mountains, it's also important to vary the value of the color that I'm using. Now, what I've done is I've mixed up a red and a blue to give me a purple tone that I'm using on the mountains. I'm also varying my strokes so that it gives the mountain added texture. That's also something you need to bear in mind. Mountain, trees, everything has texture. And in order to do that, what you see me doing there right now is adding texture to the mountainside so that it looks like rocks, a rock face. And then the mountain in the distance is going to be extremely light because that's much further away. I'll do a close-up of that picture and add it to the video at the end. I'll take a photograph and then put it into the edited video. What I'm pointing out there are the three different values of those mountains, and I'm now going to work on the tree line again, I think, just to add a little bit of depth into that back area, just some of the dark where the sun doesn't get to. So very carefully working some dark into that bush line. This was a project that we teach, and this is just a variation on that specific project. I've done about 3 or 4 of these pieces in different formats, acrylic, gouache, and now this in watercolor, and each time I try and change not the process, but the actual picture itself. I try to add another different element into it, change direction on the mountains, add in extra mountains. I think the original project only started with 2 mountains in it, and I've put 3 into this one. Kind of like reminds me of a place that I used to travel through in South Africa. Busy working on the field color now. And I'm using yellow ochre for this. As we come closer, I'll add some red to the yellow ochre. So in the distance I've used a lot of water. And up close now it's mainly yellow ochre that I've on the brush with little water. So that I can get the effect of distance. And if you're thinking of trying this out, watercolor is going to be your cheapest. You can get a very cheap little set to play around with. Yes, watercolor is not an easy medium to work with. You need to understand how the medium works, but it's probably the cheapest way to have a little bit of fun. So if you want to paint along, grab some watercolor and do this little picture, and welcome to post it in the comments. As I say, you can do it in acrylic as well. What I'm doing now is I'm just adding a bit of a dark highlight to the base of the trees, and I'll add some into the tree as well. Just to further define that back area. With regards to the road, in order to get the road looking like a road, you use your paintbrush in order to get the direction into this and to indicate that the road is coming out towards you. So you'll notice that I put in some tracks, vary the color, get it really light towards the back, and darker in the front. Just adding some shadow under the trees. What I'm doing there is I'm actually lifting out some of the paint. That's the advantage of watercolor, is you can actually lift out color. Now, as I said, I'm not using watercolor paper here, so on this one it was very difficult to lift it out with just water on the brush. What I'm doing now is I'm using a card with green, and I'm just adding some vegetation, additional vegetation into the picture. Adding some grasses to give a sense of direction. the lines of the grass that I or patches of vegetation that I'm drawing in, if you notice, you'll see that the lines all run towards the road, and the road takes you into the picture. So the eye is forced down into the center, into the mountains. Now pointing out just how the value takes you into the center of the picture with the different aspects that we've put down in the composition, so that it takes your eye into the mountains. You want to actually go down there and see what's down the road. What I did do now is I added some extra tree line down at the bottom, because I felt that the road at the bottom was actually too wide and not drawing you in enough in order to want you to go down that area. So I added an additional on the left and right, so that the eye wants to know what's around that corner. So what I'll do is I'll post a photo of this one, as well as the one I did in acrylic. I will add to the end of this video so that you can see the difference between a flat piece and one that's got depth in it, using various elements available, or fundamentals of art available to a person to use in order to create aerial perspective. And what you could do is you could take a pen, a black ink pen, and use it to outline specific areas, as in ink and wash. Just using my pencil to highlight these fence post, and I could use a pen to do that, just adding an additional one on the right hand side as well, and could put in a cattle gate there in order to take you into the picture. Going to add in a bush on the left hand side. Just pretty empty there, so just add in some bush so that the eye doesn't run out of the piece of work. I hope you're able to gain some insight into working in watercolor as well as perspective. So from me, Cappy, thanks for stopping by. Have a great day or evening, wherever you may be. Like, share, comment, and please, if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel, Cappy at Studio on 7. We always appreciate people stopping by to come and have a look. You can also join us in one of our workshops in which we teach all the elements of art, the fundamentals, and do 1 day or 3 day workshops, up to 5 day workshops, tailored to suit your needs. Currently at the studio we can take 5 people in studio, bearing in mind that we need to do the social distancing thing. Thanks for stopping by. Have an awesome day. Cheers from me, Cappy.